Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is Patron Hangout number 208. Welcome, everybody who is in the chat room. Sorry about the time mix-up. Hi, Harpa. Just rolled in. It's been a busy week. Hi, Dee. That's in Dogs Discussion. Welcome. I haven't seen you in a while, so I know you were having fun, I think, with grandkids. So a better thing to do, actually. Hi, Planet Steel. All right. As I start today, before I start, I do want to mention to anybody who's new, if you'd like to be in the chat room with these lovely people in the Patreon community, please do click the link below to Patreon. It's $5 a month, and there's 2 live shows a week, the Hangout and also the Case Show on the weekend, which are patron only. Now, everything does become public after the live show is done, so please do subscribe to the channel. You won't miss anything. Check the playlist. All right, now, hi, Lynn. So more people coming in. And while people are coming in, yes, I know you're going to ask about the cat, the feral cat. And there is Mac. That's Mac. That's Mac's picture. That is Mac again, pretending I don't exist by just sitting there in my bedroom with his eyes closed. And Mike, come on, dude, open your eyes up. I actually am still here, even if you close your eyes. so he just cracks me up. I mean, the things he does that I just know are fake. I do. I know they're fake. His grooming too. He'll come in and he'll sit in the door and start grooming. Like, again, is ignoring me. I know he's not actually grooming for the purposes of grooming like a cat would normally groom. It's just his pretending thing he does. So it's quite amusing. And because I'll have the feral cat, I got a question over at my other channel on Dear Profiler Pat. And in case you're not familiar with the channel, please go over there and it's linked below. Subscribe to that. It's an advice channel. And have fun with it. And I like to just kind of help people with ideas, what can help them in different aspects of their life. So this question was, what do I do with my pet if I can't care for it? And the question came up because somebody was having to move and they couldn't take their feral cats with them. And it went, if I move, I can't take my feral cat either. And actually, I'm going to be away for 3 months in the winter. And who's going to take care of Mac? Well, my granddaughter, she doesn't know yet, but I'm going to pay her. So she will come into my house and she will leave a large bowl. There'll be a large bowl of dry food and a large bowl of water. And my feral cat, Mac, can continue to come into the house through the cat door like he always does. But instead of coming into my room and having to deal with me and stand on my lap to eat, he will get to eat out of the dry food bowl that is in the house. And he will probably not care one bit that I'm not there. But that's what I'm going to do for 3 months. But if I were to move, then people say, what do you do then? And there are so many times in our lives where some reason that we have to deal with not being able to care for a pet, maybe because we're ill, maybe because we're moving and the place we're moving to doesn't allow pets, and things happen. People always think that, when you choose to have an animal, you're going to keep it for life and everything is going to go perfectly. But sometimes things do not. So, but I just want to, the reason I'm bringing this up is just because it was kind of funny because I was talking about my bearded dragon, and there he is, and there is the pastel painting I did of him. But and I did rehome him, and I did that because I knew that when I went away for like 3 months, I couldn't get anybody in to. It was so difficult to deal with that kind of a lizard because you have to have heating and you have to have. The food is live, so you have to have bugs for the animal, and either somebody's got to keep going to the pet shop and trying to get crickets and stuff. It's very difficult. And because it was so difficult for me when I got the lizard, I actually developed dubia roach colonies. And this is, oops, that's not it. That is some picture. It's not supposed to be there. Where'd my other picture go? Anyway, here they are inside a big box. There are all these roaches. They're called dubia roaches, and they're big like that, and they're not skittish like the American ones, and you can pet them. And so they're actually very nice. They don't smell. When they're in their colonies, they actually sound like falling rain. It's really pretty sounding. They're really, really nice animals. And I started feeling bad that I was feeding them to the lizard because I kind of like them. And then you can pet them. And some people said, I was with you, Pat, until you talked about the roaches. and apparently a lot of people didn't really like the concept of the roaches. But those roaches, actually, I sold them at $100 a colony. because they're actually very different. To get the colony the size that I had 2 colonies. People were thrilled because if they're keeping a lot of reptiles around, dubia roaches are great for feeding them. But I felt sorry for the roaches. I did. I liked them. Now I'm going to have nightmares. And that's what other people said too. My eyes look pretty with makeup. It's the same exact makeup I use every time. I have no skill. It's 5 minutes. That's all I do. Oh, your cat Reba did catch a huge roach. You must not live in. Do you live in Hawaii or something? Because generally speaking, the roaches in Maryland, for example, are those little tiny skittishy things that are gross. Like you turn on the light and like thousands of them flee, and it's pretty repulsive. But in Hawaii, I know they're big. I know they're big in Florida. But the dubia roaches, you can sit there and pet them. They're like beetles. They're not really like roaches. So I'm going to stand up for dubia roaches, even if that makes me weird. Oh, yeah, exactly. Even I find them creepy. And luckily, I don't have any of those in my life since I've lived in some apartments in my younger years. And yeah, you turn the lights on. And when I was in California, I bought I actually got what was it? I'm going to draw a blank here. I got a lizard that I stuck on the wall, and tokay gecko, crazy looking thing, bright blue with red spots, big yellow eyes, and he's nasty as hell. I mean, but so when you bring him home, you just kind of throw him out of the bag. But we lived in this ghetto apartment in California, so the lizard would, like in the night, would come out from behind the refrigerator and just eat like thousands of roaches. It's great. So I didn't have to feed the pet, and he got rid of the roach problem. Pretty cool. So things you never wanted to know about. Well, you have flying ones. Oh, all right, that might be creepy. Oh, that's an interesting question. UK Royal Watcher, hi. When you went on television, did people do your makeup? Oh, heck yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you do regular television, now that has changed, folks. When I used to do television with all the networks, I worked for over 15 years with the networks. I did about 3,000 appearances. CNN, HLN, MSNBC, Fox, UK like Sky. I did Canada AM. I did a lot of different networks, and always you would be brought into the studio. And when you walk into the studio, you go straight into makeup. They do your hair, they do your makeup, and then you sit in the chair and they get the lights all perfect. So yeah, she looked much more professional. And I will say this, Today's Show in New York, they rock. I mean, I never looked so good in my life. And they did it quickly too, and I looked amazing. And Fox News was probably the best of the networks, MSNBC, CNN, and Fox. Fox had the best, most glamorous makeup artists. I looked great on Fox. It was really cool. But now they found a way out of paying for makeup artists, paying for the studio, paying for limo drivers. So now everybody does it from Zoom, from their home, and they get nothing. No makeup, no good, no decent lighting, no nothing. And so it sucks. And if you're young, like really young, you look good anyway. And if you're an older man, you can get away with it. But if you're an older female, you are screwed because it's not good. Although we do have filters now, and we do use them. Where is Pat headed? I don't know. Anyway, that's enough of that. That was just an amusing beginning of the show. Anyway, I want to go to this. I just did this show, and I just want to let you know about it in case you don't realize it. I did it. Or if I can find it, and I've lost it. What in the heck? Where did it? Oh, there it is. Okay. I did a show on Jussie Smollett because this was Netflix just put out a documentary called "The Truth About Jussie Smollett" with a question mark. The truth about Jussie Smollett. And so I did my video called A Profiler on Who is Telling the Truth, Jussie Smollett or the Sendero Brothers. Those are the two very good-looking guys behind me. And it's got extraordinarily low ratings on IMDb. People hated it. I liked it. For once, I liked it. I did. I enjoyed it very much. They did a really interesting, the prosecution and the police came on and they gave all the information on one side, and then the attorney for Smollett came on, and she said some dumb things and tried to said a few things that just made no sense whatsoever, that were not convincing. And I'm like, wow, it was supposed to be a very even documentary. The director said he wanted people to make up their own minds. And I have a feeling they were trying to actually make people think maybe he wasn't guilty. But Jussie showed up on the documentary and he said exactly what he's always said. He said, never changed my story. This is the truth. I've never changed anything. Still a good actor. So go check out my video on that. It was actually a fascinating. I enjoyed watching it. I did. So, you saw it. You said stick to acting. Yeah, creating this hate crime, this script that he wrote for this hate crime, and how it's going to go down. It's the same problem that people have when they try to stage a crime. Let's say a man kills his wife. And he decides, I've got to stage this crime as a serial killer. So he does things he thinks a serial killer would do. So staging crimes often doesn't go well because people really don't understand how it works. Jussie, I think, there was no hate crime. I don't believe it. And the whole actual crime was so ridiculous and stupid and improbable. And it's like, stick to acting. I don't know what you're talking. I'm not sure. Just travel. Okay. Okay. Oh yes, I am going for 3 months. Yes, I'm fleeing in December. That is correct. I'm going to Hawaii and December 31st, and I'm going to stay till March 25th, and it's going to be interesting. I've always wanted to do this, to get out of the winter, and I'm going to do it this year. And I'm staying in a room in a house in a neighborhood, and we're going to see how it goes. But we shall see how it goes. But I've got to try it. All right, let's go to. I got to talk about not them. I do. Let me talk about them. Okay, so. People said, what is going on with this little baby that is obviously deceased? And his parents have been arrested and charged with murder, especially the guy on the right, who, beat up his own baby girl a number of years ago, and they let him exist in society. And the poor little girl is like permanently damaged. And then this idiot on the left, she goes and marries the guy who beats up his children. And lo and behold, another one goes missing. Well, she says he went missing. If you remember the story, I'll catch you up to it. Okay, so this is Emmanuel Haro, this little boy. And she told this story, and there's a new part to the story I want to point out to you, which I think is really interesting. So they're at a soccer game. And she suddenly goes to the store to buy a mouth guard for one of the children and takes the baby with her. I think he's 7 months old, takes him with her, which I question anyway. I'm like, you run to the store. It's a pain in the butt to carry a child with you. Your husband's sitting there in a freaking chair with the other kids. Why not just leave the kid? Just run off. I mean, come back. I'd like to know if she was nursing or not. Because if she wasn't nursing her baby, then hubby could give the baby a bottle. It's 7 months old. It's not like, and she's only going to be gone for what? A few minutes, 30 minutes maybe. And you're going to want to put the child in there, put it in the car seat, drive it over there, try to get out of the car, carry it in. Come on now. Okay, somebody said maybe her husband's not very cooperative. Maybe you're right. So, but it was a thought of mine. I was like, that's odd to me. She didn't leave the child there. But she claims she goes to the the store, and she parks far away from the store where there are no cameras. How convenient. Because, of course, people with babies want to walk as far as they can with that child to the store. Anyway, she said this, which I thought was really interesting. And this was not in an article I read prior. This is in this article. The investigation is unfolded under a past week. Okay, the reported kidnapping. She reported her baby kidnapped from a Big Five sporting goods store. This is quote, I took him out of the car seat and laid him on the chair. Okay, I'm not sure. A lot of this is very quick. I want to know, I don't know what kind of vehicle they had. I don't know how everything works. And that bothers me when you're trying to analyze something. And laid him on the chair. I had his diapers here. And someone said, hola. I couldn't turn. And I don't remember nothing. I got up from the floor and didn't see my child. Someone took him from me. Now, profilers in the chat room, what is wrong with that picture? She's leaning in the car, supposedly, changing diapers. She hears Ola. I couldn't turn and I don't remember anything. I got up off the floor. What's wrong with the picture? You don't forget the mouth guard. Yeah, well, I have to say I should, but sometimes you do. Yeah, she does. There we go. She has a black eye, true. But here's the thing. Yes, Caitlin, you got it. How does she get a black eye from being hit in the back? If her head was inside the car and she never turned, I thought originally when that guy said, hola, she turned to look at him. But hold on a second. If she didn't turn to look at him and get punched in the eye, if she's leaning in the car, how does she get damaged? I'm like, yeah, I don't, that story just doesn't ring true. So of course the police are immediately suspicious of her, probably because why did you take the baby with you? Why did you park far away from from the store with no cameras? Why are you claiming that you got punched in the face when your face wasn't even turned? I mean, there are a lot of reasons. And now what's happened is they are searching for the baby, and apparently the husband said something while he was in jail about killing the baby, so that kind of made them suspicious, you see. And then they've been out in this remote area looking for the baby. So they're pretty sure, for whatever reasons, that the husband beat the child to death. And which was really sad. What they're saying is, see if I have the other story on that. They think that that this isn't the first time. In other words, this is an ongoing child abuse situation. I don't know why they think that, but I'm not surprised that they think that. And so, yeah, it says here, let's see. So one of the problems with the whole situation was after he beat his daughter to the point of breaking multiple bones, well, he claimed he dropped her on the sink as he bathed her. What? No. You can drop a kid on a sink when you bathe them, and they're not going to break all their bones. So he pleaded guilty to felony child endangerment, was sentenced to felony probation for 4 years, and ordered to serve 180 days in jail on a work release program. I don't know what's wrong with these judges, but he should have been in prison for the next 20 years. But instead, don't do that again. And then he did it again. And now a child is dead. He's got one disabled child and one dead child. Because the judge didn't know how to give a decent. I just don't understand some of these judges. I really don't. Oh, okay. First of all, he does have a crossed eye thing, but that has nothing to do with anything. Never believe a still picture. That's one. People do this all the time. You see a still picture and you think that represents the person. I have had still pictures put up by haters where they're like, "Look at Pat Brown." and I look horrible. Or they catch me at a moment where maybe I drop something on my foot. They don't know. There's no context. So don't go with still pictures. There's also, if you've ever seen those Olin Mill pictures, people used to go and get their pictures taken. So you have the mother, you have the father, you have the 3 kids, and the next day they're all of them are dead except daddy. So the smiling picture means nothing. The weird picture means nothing. A short video clip often means nothing. So if you're going to think about profiling and analyzing, don't go with stuff like that, because it's just not very useful. So, but I don't know where you got that information from. The face child, I don't know if that's true or not. So be very careful. I don't know where you're getting your information from. This is something very important. Just because oftentimes even the media doesn't get their information from correct places. They're parrots. They'll parrot. So you can have in the media, because I know this is true. You can have some. I remember this case once. It was amazing. Some woman didn't get out of her chair for like a year, and she molded into it, and then they came and had to carry her off with the chair or something. It was a really kind of grotesque story, and it was in a small town, and it was told by a small town journalist. Somebody rolled over there and said, this is what they saw and this is what happened. I saw that story repeated across all the major networks: Fox, MSNBC, CNN, Washington Post, New York Times. All of them just repeated the story. That's called plagiarism. But and this is where media is these days. They plagiarize like crazy. They don't have their own reporters on the scene. They just steal it from somebody else. Well, it turned out, when I looked into that case, that reporter was completely wrong about a whole bunch of stuff. But all the media reported it. And you go, well, it's in the Washington Post. It's in the New York Times. It must be true. No, never absolutely believe everything. And one of the points about my show that I say over and over again is this is an educational channel on how to think things through as to analyze and to profile. It's not a crime-solving channel, because when I do things on YouTube, I don't have the incredible amount of time, hundreds of hours, to research every single show I do. And I also am dependent on what I can read in the news. I try to eliminate what I think is questionable, but just saying, be careful about that stuff. Anyway, I want to go to these characters, the Menendez brothers. And the reason I find this interesting, they both got turned down for parole to get out of prison. So personally, I don't want them out, because I think I do not believe their story that they had to kill their parents. Their claim was they had to kill their parents because they're afraid if they didn't kill their parents, the parents would kill them, which made no sense. They were adults. They could have gone any place, but I guess they were thinking daddy was going to send a hitman, although none of that was ever evident any place. Was there sexual abuse when they were younger? There could have been. There is claims from them that there was. It's possible. And it could have been that it happened and it was unpleasant. And I don't know how long it went on, because we have very unreliable narrators here. I don't know. But the fact is, they did not kill in self-defense. Even if the parents did, even if father was sexually assaulting them, at the time this happened, they did not kill in self-defense. They did not. And you cannot, the rule of law is revenge is not allowed. There's a million people could say, my parents didn't treat me right, I'm going to go back and kill them. We cannot allow that. And so these guys were adults. They went back. They premeditatedly bought the weapons, went in, blew their parents away. And when their parents were dying, they went out and continued to blow them. Like a mother, she was crawling on the floor and blew her brains out. It's disgusting crime. And then they went on a spending spree, having a damn fine time. I don't buy their story. Maybe they did have some unfortunate things that happened in their childhood, but they were wealthy. They had parents supporting them in all the adventures they wanted, like opening restaurants and playing tennis. I mean, of all the people that suffered in the world, they don't qualify very high on my list. But anyway, so they're in prison and they're getting this chance to get out. Now, what bothers me here is when they go before parole boards, Do the parole boards understand anything about psychopathy? And so first, we'll go to Erik first, because he's the first one that got denied. All right. So during his hearing, he offered his most detailed account in years of how he was raised and why he made the choices he did, both at the time of his parents' killing and during his decades in prison, because he had lots of time to figure out his story. So he said, I was not raised with a moral foundation. I was raised to lie, to cheat, to steal in a sense, an abstract way. When I was playing tennis, my father would make sure I cheated at certain times if he told me to. The idea that there might be a right and wrong that I do not cross because it is a moral bound was not instilled in me as a teenager. So basically saying his parents made him into a psychopath, or his daddy made him into a psychopath. That's kind of what he's saying. He said, for years he was sexually abused by his father. We have no proof that that's true. That he might have been abused, yes, because it was that letter he wrote that made it seem like he was concerned about something. How often it happened, if it happened, I honestly don't know. Nobody does. Prosecutors asked why Menendez chose to kill his father rather than to leave the family home as he was already 18. He said, in my mind, leaving meant death. What? There was no consideration. I was totally convinced there was no place I could go. He said, it's difficult to convey how terrifying my father was. So he's claiming his father would hunt him down and kill him. There was never any evidence of that. And anybody could say that. And now people have often accused me of that when I talk about Gypsy. They say that, well, you said that she couldn't get away from her mother. Well, she was raised as a child by her mother, who was a Munchausen syndrome by proxy psychopath. And she was physically, mentally, and emotionally disabled. With the things her mother did to her, with control 24 hours a day in doing these things to her. And when she tried to run away, her mother did come after her and claimed that she was not capable of living on her own, which is also possibly true, because if she was and had so many issues and never had been able to grow up, she would have trouble living on her own. Getting a job would be nearly impossible. So when she asked her little online buddy that, hey, could you take care of my mommy? And he was like, oh, yeah, I like raping and killing women, because he's a psychopath. Go to John. She felt that was the only way to free herself. I believe that story because there is evidence that that's true. Now, she went to prison, which she paid. She did go to prison, which I don't object to. I can't say what kind of person, whether she's healthy mentally now, whether she's got a personality disorder. That's a whole nother matter. So we're going to see how she behaves in the future. She was raised by a psychopath, so she may indeed have serious issues. And I'm not saying that the Menendez brothers couldn't have serious issues if their daddy was a psychopath. I'm not saying that. But the difference was he could actually leave. There was no evidence that his father would kill him if he left, and there was no evidence he couldn't survive if he left. And he's not living in the home. His father's not assaulting him. He wasn't assaulting him at the time this all happened. So he could go to college. He could play tennis. He could get a job. He could do all kinds of things, and he's not being sexually assaulted by his father. So that's a bunch of junk. Then he said, why did he kill his mother as well as his father? He explained that he did not see any difference between his parents because he found out that his mother knew about the abuse. Again, if she did know about the abuse and ignored it, I have issues with her. Does that give you the right to return and blow her away? No, it doesn't. You can, it just doesn't. Okay, then the reason they did not give him the let him out was they said he had numerous rule violations he committed in prison, including drinking alcohol, affiliating with a gang, and having a cell phone. He had his excuses lined up. Why he chose to use a cell phone what I got in terms of the phone and my connection with the outside world was far greater than the consequences of me getting caught with the phone because I didn't think I was going to get out. On substance abuse, I would numb my sadness with alcohol. I would prefer to do that over drugs to numb the pain, to ease the sadness within me. Changing his life. Okay, so what about what happened to the thing about the gangs? He said they did the gang. Oh, what's the gang thing? That basically he hooked up with a gang to protect himself. All right. Then he said here, so that's why he was denied parole. And then he said, well, next time, guess what he's going to do? Now that he has a hope of parole, maybe he won't use the phone, hook up with a gang, or drink, now that he has a reason not to do those things. However, does that mean he's a changed person, or just means he's doing things for his own benefit? Now, Lyle, the brother, who I think is the total psychopath and the leader of this duo here, he, on the other hand, this pisses me off because the parole people seem to not understand one thing about psychopathy. So it says here, hold on a second. I have a frozen screen. Let me reboot that. Okay, so he's denied parole. All right, and let's see what it says here. They say he can try again in 3 years. All right. This is what they said, though, which annoys the hell out of me. Okay, the panel has found today there are still signs that he poses a risk to the public. That's fine. We find your remorse is genuine. Really? The dude's a psychopath. I swear to God, that guy's a psychopath. There's no genuine remorse with a psychopath. In many ways, you look like you've been a model inmate. You have been a model inmate in many ways, who has demonstrated potential for change. But despite all those outward positives we see, you still struggle with, get what he struggles with, an antisocial personality. Antisocial personality traits like deception, minimization, and rule breaking. Because he's a psychopath, guys. Do you not get that? That's why he has an antisocial personality, and it's not going to change. Then they say to him, don't ever not have hope. It's not the end. It is a way for you to spend some time to demonstrate, to practice, to preach about who you are and you want to be. In other words, you got 3 more years to figure out how to fake being not a psychopath and not a danger to society. So, and of course, Lyle says, I do take responsibility for all this pain. My mom and dad did not have to die that day. No, except he wanted their money. And they're saying here again, he commits a violation. He lies about it and tries to avoid responsibility because he's a psychopath. So I don't care what he says. I don't care about all this fake remorse crap. He's learned how to say things. They send inmates to psychiatrists and to therapy groups that teach them how to say all the right things. Psychopaths can learn what they need to do to get over on people. And that's all they're doing. So it's really, I'm like, can they get somebody on the parole board that understands psychopathy? What's your point, Caitlin? oh, there we go, smiley face. Yeah, well, maybe he did teach them to lie. I mean, the problem we have is actually a good question, a point with the smiley face. But if the dad really did do these things, parents do imprint on their children. So unfortunately, some people end up the way they are because their parents are scum. Okay, they do influence their children and their behavior and their psychology, and that sucks. And the children shouldn't have to be raised by people like that. But the fact is that they are, and the legal system is something different than wishful thinking system. I mean, there's so many things I wish were better. But that doesn't mean we have to still have a legal system that says, in spite of everything that sucks for you, you can't go out raping and murdering people. That's just not allowed, And those are 2 different things, and people seem to conflate them, which is problematic. It's that they think they are blameless. Not necessarily. See, this is where people think they actually don't get it. No. They don't think they're blameless. They don't care. That's the difference. They're proud of what they do. They're just making up stories for the parole board. That's what it becomes. Now, this is a good point. If they got out, they'd probably become fraudsters. In theory, at this age, people say, well, they're not going to murder again because it was a situational murder. So they murdered for the money, in my opinion, not because of sexual abuse. So if they get out, would they walk the straight and narrow, be decent human beings, never commit crimes? Or would they become fraudsters, like you point out? Fraud is a very likely possibility because they don't seem to have morals or ethics. So if they want what they want, they're going to find a way to get what they want. And they've already proven some of that by their dalliances in prison, marriages and whatever, that they lied and cheated on, even in prison. So yeah, but would they be violent anymore? Maybe not. Except maybe yes. Maybe they get out of prison, they'd marry somebody, and they find out that woman was worth more dead than alive. And lo and behold, the wife dies. And you're like, how did that happen? Because he still was a psychopath. So, yeah. I think, to me, they were a lost cause when they blew away their parents in the way they did. And sometimes parents have no life. You can think what you want of them. They were murdered. They do not get to live on. These guys in other societies and other times, these guys wouldn't have made it through the week. They would have been hung or shot for being murderers. Instead, we put them in prison and we get to know them and like them and write books about them and do documentaries about them and give them a chance to get out so they can have another chance at life, even though the people they killed didn't. So, and really, no, they don't. However, they will cover up their spots better. They learn how to be more deceptive as they get older and as they learn things. Prison can teach you a lot of good stuff as far as that goes. No, it really can. She better be rich, and she better her money better keep him happy, or she's not going to be around. Now, I want to talk about another case. Somebody just right before the show showed me this case, and I'm like, again, we need judges who have a brain. These people should be thrown off the bench. It's unbelievable. So this woman, and I'd never heard about her, and somebody said, well, yes, way before Sherry Papini, she faked her kidnapping. It's a different situation, but what was interesting to me was what the judge did with this case. Remember how I say women get away with a lot more than men because somehow we feel sorry for them? Where is it? All right. Her name is Quinn Hannah Gray. Okay. This is her again. All right. Oh, you do not do that to me. Oh, for God's sake. They just put up a block. I want to pay. Jesus God. Okay. I'm going to have to see if I can find another. Sometimes they let you read it, and then when you come back to read it again, they wipe it out. Okay, I'm going to have to find another thing. I want to read what the judge said, because this is where I think it's just amazing. Quinn Hannah Gray. Okay. Hopefully there's another Gray. All right. Okay, so I can't use that. So essentially what happened is, I'm going to see if Reddit has it here. All right. Just so annoying. Oh, she violated parole. Okay, I want the whole parole thing. Okay, so she was stop that. I'm not paying that dollar. It's not the dollar I mind. It's the fact that you then have to subscribe and then try to unsubscribe. The Ponte Vedra Beach woman who faked her own kidnapping in 2009 as part of an extortion scheme against her husband has been accused of violating probation. They said that she, since getting divorced, so she fakes her, she gets together with this guy and pretends she's kidnapped, They were trying to get $50,000 off the husband, saying, you're causing her to get killed, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, they get caught. The guy goes to prison. She doesn't. She gets divorced, but she violated her probation by falling behind on her restitution and court fees. So this is what happened. She pleaded no contest to an extortion charge and received 7 years of probation. She's faked a kidnapping and extortion. She gets probation. She was found in an Orange Park parking lot 3 days after her husband reported her missing. She told police she had been abducted by thugs who demanded $50,000 of a debt owed by her husband. Okay. He said, so I want the original thing, because the original thing is what just I thought was amazing. Okay, let's see if it's in here. She was found alive. They revealed it's a staged kidnapping. Okay. They were both indicted. Quinn Gray and Jasmine Osmanovic were indicted on the crimes. Quinn was indicted for filing a false police report and some accounts extortion. Well, she should have been. She wound up accepting a plea bargain that resulted in 7 years probation. Her conditions of probation were extensive, including mental health and substance abuse treatment. She's probably a psychopath, and she's going to get mental health treatment. Okay. And substance abuse. I'm sorry, but alcohol or drugs doesn't make you fake kidnappings and try to get $50,000 off your husband. And then this restitution, paid back community service. This is what I thought was amazing, the community service thing. I want you to guess what community service she might do in her field of work. Just because I said this over and over again, what do you think her field of work was? Since she's Munchausen syndrome psychopath. What do you think her line of work was? Thank you, Aisha. You betcha. I've said this over and over again. It is. Clarissa chimed in, Harper chimed in. Yep, you're all right, nurse. That Munchausen syndrome people, and Munchausen syndrome by proxy, have an attraction to the nursing field. That's one of those things. It is. And so it's rather fascinating. So the judge actually says to her, well, if you use your nursing skills to help other people, then that's part of your restitution. And I'm thinking, do I want this woman to be my nurse? This psychopath, creepy, crazy lady who faked her own kidnapping. I want her to be my nurse. She should not ever do a day's work of nursing ever again. What the hell is wrong with these judges? You're insane. But that's what they do. With women, it's like, oh, she must have had a good reason. No, some women are psychopaths. Please understand that. I thought that was just crazy. Anyway, okay. Next thing. Before I go on to talk about the next thing, I want to mention this. Derek Lavoisier does a show called Detective Perspective. He did a thing. He does a show with what's her name? Okay, somebody throw out her name. Top YouTube person. You all know who she's. True Crime. Somebody throw it out there for me because I'm blanking here. I'll have to back and look it up. Thank you, Stephanie Harlow. Yes. Okay, so Stephanie Harlow had a show she did by herself, but then she brought in Derek Lavoisier, which probably was a great idea, actually. Now, Derek Lavoisier, he had a show on, he had a documentary show at one point, a series, and I was hired to do one of the shows. I went out to Minnesota, and I did not see Derek. I saw his partner, who was I think he's a psychiatrist, and I think that guy's scum. That's my opinion. And he tried to, I was basically trying to railroad me into saying things I wouldn't say. And then when they realized that I wasn't going to say what they wanted me to say, they dumped me off the show. But I got a free trip to Minnesota and I got paid, so it wasn't the worst thing. But So I didn't like that show because I don't like that guy. And so Derek Lavoisier, I didn't Lavasseur, maybe it's Lavasseur. Sorry, I think he says Lavasseur. Is that what he says? I pronounce it. It like looks French to me, so I keep saying Lavoisier, but I think it's Lavasseur. So, but anyway, I didn't know much about him, but I wasn't like overly keen on him since I had that experience with the show. But I have seen him on a few shows that I've been working, doing a video on, and I've seen that he has said something. I wanted to look to see what did he come up with, and I actually have been pleasantly surprised. So was not unhappy with a lot of his analyses. And he just did analyses, a long one with Stephanie on the Amy Bradley case. And I was very pleased that he came to the end. He said, okay, here's all the possibilities. And then he came and said, I think she never left that ship. She wasn't sex trafficked. Kendall Ray? That's Kendall Ray, not Stephanie Harlow? It's Kendall Ray? Really? Okay. It's one of the two. I get confused. I don't usually watch true crime shows. But I just wanted to point out that, I try to give some credit to people who, in my opinion, are worth, watching, worth listening to their opinions on, because they do explain where they're coming from and they do explain the evidence. And so I want people to realize there's more than one person out there, that you can get information from, or you can value their opinion. You can learn from more than one person, is my point. And sometimes people think that I attack a lot of shows. And I do, because when I think they're crap, they're crap. And I don't like people wasting their time watching crap. And especially with shows that attempt to analyze and they have no skills in doing so, or that say, oh, this is what happened, when they have no clue that that's what happened. So like all these shows that have come out saying Amy Bradley was sex trafficked really upset me, because there's not one shred of evidence that is true. And yet they're perfectly happy to make a lot of money saying that it is true. And that bothers me. So there are some people I am not fond of, because I think they're playing to the audience and they don't care about the truth. And so, but when I do see some people that do a reasonably good job, at least I want to give them some credit for that, because it does give some, a different point of view. And having said that, I'm going on to the next one, because it hasn't been kind of a long time issue with me. There's a new show coming out in September, and it's called, on September 13th, Death Row Confidential, coming out from Oxygen, Secrets of a Serial Killer. I've seen the preview. The preview is pretty damn good. And I think it's going to probably be a hit. Absolutely be a hit. And who is behind Death Row Confidential? Well, it says here it is, Death Row Confidential. And behind it is Ken Maines. And he's saying, I had information about a serial killer. And this guy feeds me information, from prison. This guy inside the prison is feeding me information about this serial killer and his crimes. And we're going to solve these whether who killed these particular people. And of course it is that guy. And Ken Maines has had his little serial killer friend who is inside the prison, and he's promoted him. And I spoke up against promoting that guy. And now the guy is out of prison. So here we are here. So it says here, watch September 13th on this one. Death row convict William Noguera gives me clues from San Quentin prison to solve an unprecedented number of cold cases related to serial killer Joe Nasso. And there they are, huggy, because now William Bill is out of prison, and all because he's this great guy. All right. Now, I'll be very honest here. I've promoted Ken Maines for a long time because, again, I like people to get varying opinions of somebody who at least gives an analysis and then explains where his analysis comes from. I still will not take that away from Ken Maines. I still think he does that well. I don't always agree with him, but at least he does that well. So I'm not saying you shouldn't watch his channel because he still does that well, in my opinion. Does he have a massive ego? Yes. There's where my problem comes in. He called me a crazy old grandma because he doesn't like competition. And he doesn't like that I said, I don't think you should put a serial killer. No, I'm sorry. Noguera is not a serial killer. He's a killer. You shouldn't put a psychopathic killer, because I think he is a psychopath, on your show and claim he is a profiler. Essentially, oh, he's profiling. He says, I can't profile, but this guy in prison, this killer, can profile. That made me kind of throw up. I'm like, that's just, don't do that. Don't give that kind of credibility to this creep. If you want to use him, which I think he did, because I've said from the very beginning, I think the reason he's got this guy on talking to him in prison is he's gunning for a television show. He's not satisfied with YouTube. He wants television. He's had some television shows before, but he wants bigger television. I said, I think he's using this guy because, and you can tell me which show this was, because I cannot remember. There was a series of a serial killer from prison. I don't know if they ever gave his name, but you always hear him talking with a profiler, and they were like solving crimes together, or analyzing crimes together. A very successful show because people like the creepy serial killer talking from prison. And I believed he did do Search for the Zodiac. That is correct. He did do that one. I believe from the beginning that he was gunning for this television show using a serial killer as a marketing tool. Now, I will watch this documentary, and I will see whether I think that this relationship he had with Noguera, and then Noguera's relationship with the serial killer, and whether it pans out to be that Noguera was just such a wonderful, useful tool, maybe, but he's also, in my opinion, still a psychopath. So I just want to read you a couple things coming from Vanity Fair. Let me find it, because I still think that guy's a psycho, and I'm looking forward to actually watching the show, seeing how much difference did this guy actually make, or is this all a partnership between two people who have ulterior motives? Anyway, it says here on Vanity Fair, so although it was dangerous for Noguera to be seen hanging out with a serial killer, over the years he had cultivated a reputation as a man not to be messed with. At 6'1" and 200 pounds and trained in martial arts, he could hold his own. I have a mask of a really not nice guy, he admits to me. I was feared by other killers because of my reputation for using violence as a tool, and I'm extremely good at it. In his memoir, he describes a fight with a paranoid murderer nicknamed Hellhound, who accused Noguera of bugging his cell and struck him in the head. In response, Noguera smashed Hellhound's nose, fractured his eye socket, and knocked out some of his teeth. Descriptions of incidents like this were, quote, watered down in the book, he says, because he didn't want to glorify violence. Not mentioned was the fact that Hellhound's face was permanently disfigured after the beating. He spoke with a lisp and had one droopy eye and never returned to the yard. Now, one could just say he's just protecting himself. All right. So then he leveraged his reputation, tough reputation, to get closer to Nassau, the serial killer dude. He says this. Okay, so hold on a second. So he hooks up with him, and he says this. He becomes friends and crime partners, he claims. We're more than friends, we're crime partners. And that's what he's assuring him. Noguera is a manipulative piece of garbage. And you can better believe that when he's manipulating people, he's good at doing it because he's probably a psychopath. So anyway, Nassau was comfortable in the yard with his influential friend and crime partner. He fantasized about hitting the road with Noguera, blah, blah, blah. And so then he starts talking about some of his crimes. It says, as Noguera was scamming Nassau to confess to more murders, he was simultaneously working to get off a death row himself. I'm going to say that's the entire reason he was scamming this guy and talking to Maines. He wants to get off a death row by pretending to be this good character. So, and they have, what did they have the audacity to say? Vanity Fair says he was he killed his girlfriend's wife after she heard he heard that she was getting got an abortion or something, and he was fueled by he was taking drugs, and that's why he killed them. No, he killed the woman in a cold-blooded, premeditated murder to get money. That's why. So it's a bunch of garbage. So now that's all being downplayed. Anyway, it says here, let's see. Oh, at 18 years of life, I took a human life, and I take full responsibility for what I did. It would be very special for me to be able to give back in some way and allow these families to at least have some finalization. Yeah, he cares about the families. He never gave a crap about the family of the woman he killed. So, I just, to me, the guy is just a lying piece of crap. Now, what this lying piece of crap could have done to get some information off the other lying piece of crap, I don't know, but it makes my stomach turn. And it bothers me. It's not so much that I'm bothered by the fact he wants to be a snitch. If he wants to be a jailhouse snitch and snitch on this guy then it ends up helping families helps detectives get enough actual evidence to prove that this guy killed these certain people and solved and closed some cases, fine. But Ken Mains, that is not a decent man. And I think he used you and you used him. He used you to get out of prison and to make money and to become famous and somebody, and you use him to get a television show. That's kind of just the way I look at it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm going to watch the show, and I'm going to, regardless of my feelings on all of this, I will watch it and see whether the show is any good and whether there was any solid evidence that makes a difference and deserves an entire television show. We shall find out. But yeah, we shall find out. Speaking of television shows, there's another one coming up. Yes. Guess there's a new documentary coming out from ITV. I'm going to have to watch that one as well. What is that one? That is going to come out. And when is that coming out? When is it coming out? Oh, here we go. ITV profiles Madeleine McCann suspect Christian Brueckner in a new documentary. All right. So it's coming out, I think also in September. And it's going to feature Dr. Graham Hill, former senior detective criminologist and lead criminal profiler. And of course, the big guy in the Madeleine McCann case, which he is not. But this guy, he's called the murder detective. Not a guy I'm fond of. He totally pushes the abduction theory in the Madeleine McCann case, which makes me think he doesn't know what he's talking about, or he's just playing to the public, to the media, because that's where the money's made. I also saw him I did this video on the Templeton Woods murders, and he was in there with David Wilson, and so the two of them were in that show together, and I was fairly not impressed by what I saw the analysis was. So, yeah, not impressed. I'm not impressed with him. But I, again, will watch the show and see whether he can prove to us all that Christian Brueckner had anything to do with what happened to Madeleine McCann. Yeah. This is true. It's a never-ending gold mine, Madeleine. Oh, my God. It is. And I just see things constantly popping out that there's not something new. It's not something that's valuable, anything to forward the case, which I believe at this point, barring a confession of her body popping up, there's nothing that's going to forward this case. I've said that forever. Once Scotland Yard stepped in with Operation Grange and went by the remit that said, we are investigating this as an abduction, the show was over, because once they said that, it meant that to bring it to court would be nearly impossible, because bring anybody to court without like a confession or her body linking to somebody. You can't bring the McCanns to court when the entire Scotland Yard says they had no involvement in it. The defense attorney will use that like you wouldn't believe. I think Pat and our group should do a show. We'll have a roundtable discussion, take shots at every psycho reference. We'll be really drunk by the end of the show. We should not do that. Oh my God. We should definitely not do that. But yes, it is one of the most egregious thing is the amount of money and resources spent on a single case. And there's no excuse for that. Regardless, even if Madeleine was actually abducted, she would have been dead within 3 hours. You're not going to find her anyplace. So to spend that level of money is insane. So when all these other cases are out there that would have more likelihood of being solved, but for the media now, it's just they eat that stuff up. They just love it. So yeah, very, very, very frustrating. What is this picture? I can't see what this picture is. What is this? Oh, okay. I just want to mention this because this kind of freaked me out. And I found very upsetting. Hold on a second. Because this guy, let's see, where is it? Hold on a second. What's going on here? Okay, so this woman, let me find that. Hold on, let me find it. Oh, here we go. All right. So this woman is Melissa, and it's a crazy story. And this is the guy that was accused of killing her. It was her husband, Christopher Wolfenbarger. He was arrested for killing her, and then the trial just ended, and very quickly they found him not guilty. Now, I'm going to look into this more to find out why they found him not guilty, but that's not why I'm talking about it today, because I haven't got a chance to go through the whole thing. This case was brought to light by, let me just hold on a second. This is Cheryl McCullum. I used to do see Nancy Grace with her. And she was a crime scene investigator, and she's a teacher. And people come to her a lot because she's very victim oriented and says, I can help solve crime. So they come to her. And so the mother, who was this person on the left, Norma Patton, that's Melissa's mother, came to her and said, please help find out who murdered my daughter. I think it's her husband. I want to prove it's murdered her daughter. All right. But here's the story. Melissa disappeared in 1998, and the husband told police she had left on her own to pursue her dream of starting a new life in California. However, the next year, 1999, Melissa's remains, including her head, were found stuffed in trash bags directly across the street from where he worked. Her torso was never found. But her remains remained unidentified to 2003, when a DNA sample used to help convict her own father, Carl Patton, of an unrelated murder, then helped identify her. Carl Patton, her father. So Melissa's father, Carl Patton, was arrested and later charged for a string of unrelated killings. He's a serial killer from the 1970s, known as the Flint River murders. His arrest is what identified her remains, Melissa's mother, Norma Patton, told The Independent. If he had never been arrested, we might have never known. Melissa's death was not at the hands of her father, who had been cleared in her murder. And I don't know why he was cleared in her murder. I don't have any evidence of that at this point. I have to look through the whole case. But what happened to her remained a mystery for decades. Her case only began to gain some traction in 2017 when crime scene investigator Cheryl McCullum got her hands on it after the slain woman's mother came to her for help. And there's mommy coming to her for help, Norma Patton on the left. You can't give up. You just keep going. Talk to anyone who will listen because you don't know who that person is who might help, Norma said. That's what Cheryl did for us. She opened the door and helped us walk through it. Melissa's case was the first to be featured on McCullum's podcast, Zone 7, when it launched in February 2023. Then in a stunning turn of events, and over a year later, a listener who heard the episode reached out to McCullum and shared a crucial bit of information. And I often say it's rare that any of these cases that are supposedly there to solve crimes ever actually solve crimes. I might be wrong on this one. 3 months later, except the guy didn't get convicted, but anyway, 3 months later, in August 2024, Melissa's husband was arrested and indicted by a grand jury for her murder with DNA connecting him to the crime. Then I'm not sure. I really have to look into this. The long-awaited trial began a year later, and jurors heard just a week of testimony before they were handed the case. And they did find him not guilty. This is the part that really bothers me. Melissa's mother, Norma Patton, took the stand earlier this week, revealing that she was once married to serial killer Carl Patton. And there are many times, people are married to serial killers and they don't know what's going on. But this woman did. And she said that she had helped him with the murders. I helped him dispose of the bodies, Patton admitted. She took a plea deal for immunity in exchange for testifying against him. If I were Cheryl, and I'm not, but if Norma Patton come to me and said, I want to help solving my daughter's murder, I would tell her to go screw off. F yourself. You didn't give one crap about all the women that your husband murdered. You helped hide those murders. You helped those families suffer for years not knowing what happened to their children. Do you have the gall to come to me and ask me for help to find out who murdered your daughter? Get as far away from me as you can, because I want to go take a shower right now. I would have absolutely zero to do with that woman from that moment on. Zero. Out of respect for all the families of the women that she helped her husband cover up, if not help murder, because we don't even know if she didn't help murder them as well. I would not give her the time of day. Now, if I wanted to find out who murdered Melissa as a separate deal, fine. But I in no way want to be connected with Norma. I just find that absolutely despicable. I don't understand. I don't understand anybody being in her vicinity. Yeah, take back the poor woman comment. I'm not helping her. I will help Melissa on my own, but I'm not helping her. Absolutely, 100%. Not helping her. Just to me, that's like a slap in the face to all the victims. Oh, I see. My daughter was murdered by her husband and she helped bury my daughter, but you're going to help her find out who murdered her baby? It just blew me away. I mean, yeah. And maybe Cheryl had no idea she helped bury the bodies until she was on the stand. I hope that's true. But that's how she got immunity, and that's how she got immunity, which she shouldn't. Again, women get away with so much crap. Anyway, I just thought that was bizarre. I might look into this case to find out if I think Daddy killed Melissa, or Melissa had bad taste in men, and she just got into another relationship with another person who was just as evil as her dad. But I don't know, and I don't know why the jury found. I can't find any information right now on why the jury found him not guilty. So I have to look into the whole case, because now I'm fascinated what really happened in this case. I mean, obviously her head being near his workplace is concerning, and the fact he says she went off to California sounds like one of those fake excuses a husband gives after his wife disappears after he's killed her. So do I think he's likely guilty? Yeah. But I just don't know why he didn't get convicted. So I would like to find that out. I thought that was this was so weird though. So weird. I want to mention this woman. Her name is Irina Zarutska, and she's from Ukraine, and she came to the U.S. to escape the Ukraine and what was going on there, because this is a safer place, right? Mm-hmm. So she gets killed by a homeless ex-con in North Carolina at the light rail station. So yeah, she was stabbed to death at the South End Light Rail Terminal in Charlotte, North Carolina. She was beaten at 9:55 p.m. Her alleged murderer was 35-year-old DeCarlos Brown, a career offender who was homeless and has a long rap sheet, and he was arrested at the scene and later charged with first-degree murder. No motive for the beating was released by the authorities, but Brown, who has been through the criminal justice system since 2011, was hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries when he was arrested. Too bad they weren't life-threatening. His long rap sheet, let's see, goes back more than a decade. Arrests for felony, theft, robbery with a dangerous weapon, and making threats. Most of those charges were eventually thrown out because this is what happens in the court system. It's amazing how many cases never go to court. Reportedly, homeless Brown embodies Charlotte's persistent problem of crime, poverty, and institutional breakdown that imperils its citizens. I always say to people all the time, unfortunately, in this country, in the United States, homeless people do not represent people who simply are very, very poor and can't find a place to live and can't afford. Like in India, a lot of people sleep on the street because they literally are that poor. And so the whole family sleeps on the street together. In this country, almost the majority of homeless people have mental problems and substance abuse problems and have been in the criminal justice system. And they can be very dangerous. And so people say, oh, they're just homeless. Or what's the new term for it? What's the new term for it? You're not supposed to say homeless anymore. I forgot what the term is. Somebody tell me what that term is now. Something to do with house, home, house. I can't remember it now. Unhoused. Thank you. Unhoused. I guess it's kind of funny because I'm not sure how unhoused is better. It's a nicer way to say homeless. What's the difference? You're lacking a home, or you're lacking a house. I mean, what's the difference? So anyway, people with variable residences. Well, there you go. I mean, wherever you lay your hat, isn't that where your home is, right? So theoretically, they're not homeless. And of course, there are some people who get very, very difficult times in life, and especially when the economy is problematic. And there are people who are truly homeless for the reason that whatever reasons, they can't find work and they're struggling, and they're not alcoholics and they're not drug users and they're, not doing fentanyl, and they're not people that should not be put in a mental institution. But it's very, very scary for people that, because you got people out there like that, and they don't lose much for committing a homicide. And so when you don't lose anything for stabbing somebody to death or beating them to death, it's nothing to stop you from doing it. As a matter of fact, this guy will probably be in better shape than he's been in a long time, because guess what? He's not going to be unhoused any longer. He's going to get a house. He'll have little bars, but he'll get a house, and he'll get fed, and he'll get to play basketball, and he'll have a pretty decent time. Residentially challenged. Oh my God, it's so funny, all the words. Every so often it changes, and you can't keep up sometimes with, like for example, when I worked in the deaf community, this is a sign for deaf, but then there became a thing about you shouldn't call people deaf. Everybody should be called hearing impaired, HI, hearing impaired. But then people are like, but what if I'm like super deaf? So then there became issues over how that's stated, because hearing impaired could include deaf, but it could also include people who are have a reduction in hearing and are not totally deaf. But then everybody has to argue about it. It's like, oh, sometimes you just get, I can't keep up with them all, So I don't tend to over worry when I'm on my show. I'm like, hopefully it's like the little suicide word, and now unalive thing. it's like, what's the difference? I mean, you know what it means. If you unalive yourself, it's the same exact thing as saying committing suicide. So what's the whole point of putting out this fake new word? Because, and it may become a real word because language changes and words are developed. And one day unalive might be just the way it's said. And I don't object to that. My objection is the fact that one is supposed to be better than the other is one. I don't see the difference between the two of them, except that this is the one that's now chosen, and to escape YouTube jail, getting your video demonetized, you're supposed to jump through these hoops and say these specific words, which I just won't do. So I take my chances. No. but it's like, wow. Let's see. What else do I have here I wanted to do? What is this? Oh, I wanted to mention this because, I'm always annoyed by it. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, let's see. Michael, what's his name? Franti. I think I might not even have this up here right now, but I want to mention it because I'm always concerned about stuff that comes from the past with no proof. This is another guy accused of, let's see, Michael Franti. Okay. Or something like that. Oh, where is it? Wait a minute. Is that his name? I spelled that wrong? Oh, it's got an I. I spelled it wrong. Okay. He got nailed with, he had to cancel his tour. He had to cancel his tour. Now, who is he? He is a Oakland-born. He's an Oakland-born frontman for Spearhead and Disposable Heroes. And he said he has canceled the remaining dates of Welcome to the Family tour. I'm devastated to disappoint you, but I hope you understand that I need this pause to be with my family. So somebody, Spanish-American singer Victoria Canal, alleged in an Instagram post that she was groomed and abused by a very powerful older musician when she was 19. She did not name Franti in her August 11th post, but she previously credited him with discovering her in 2018 and inviting her on tour. Later the same day, he took to Instagram the account to acknowledge a romantic relationship with an unnamed artist outside his marriage, but denied any abuse. Said the relationship was completely consensual, based on mutual feelings and attraction. Canal described the man as controlling and abusive in private. She alleged he photographed her without consent and isolated her from others, saying the experience plagued my body, spine, spirit, and mind throughout her 20s. A few days later, Canal shared similar allegations sent to her by Carla Swanson, who co-founded Soulshine Yoga Resort Hotel. And then another person chimed in. And another writer chimed in on Substack and said, oh, my experience with him between 2000 and 2018. She said she was a long-time fan and admitted she initially welcomed his attention, but later came to see a troubling pattern of behavior. And so there's all these accusations from a while back. And so he's canceled his tour. So far, what I see is that he admitted he cheated on his wife and is having a romantic relationship with pretty young things. Moral? No. But I'm just always kind of amazed that these are accusations. And what happens is when one accusation comes out, then it's put out in public, and then other people who knew him could say, oh, yeah, me too. And that's why I've always had an issue with anything on Me Too, which doesn't come from a police report. In my opinion, if you hooked up with him when you were 19 because you wanted to be a star and he was giving you this opportunity and you thought he was hot and cool and you were perfectly fine having sex with him behind his wife's back, because guess what? He was cheating on his wife, but you were helping him cheat on his wife. So you aren't any more moral than he is. So, and so that's what happened. Suck it up. You know what I mean? You made your choices. He made his choices. Both of you. It's in this instance, I don't even see any crimes here. So unless it's, I wish we would stop making everything freaking public and having everybody's claims be made public. Because once upon a time, it was nice that, you could have a star, for example, and they may not have been, you know, you like seeing them in the movies and all that. They might not have been the greatest person in private, but you enjoy watching them in the movies. But nowadays, it's like constant fair game to make accusations without any actual proof. And, you know, the accusations could be partially true, but they could also be exaggerated. So that you just essentially just destroy somebody who has not committed a crime. And being a scumbag is not necessarily being a crime. That's not necessarily a crime. Being a horn dog is not necessarily a crime. You know, using your status as a famous person to get babes is not a crime. It's no more of a crime than babes using men of high status to get what they want. I mean, neither one is a crime. It's not good behavior, but it's not a crime. And I don't have to approve of that behavior. But I also don't think it, you know, the fact that we're turning every social interaction that isn't pleasing into a crime is concerning to me, and destroying people's lives. I just think that's unnecessary. So yeah, let's not get to the political. Oh, it's a very political topic. Yeah, let's not be political about it. But I mean, the only reason the Me Too thing I speak on is because I found it is not supported by evidence. So it's like the Jussie Smollett case. I did write in that when I was doing the show, the comment section. Please do not put put political comments up there, because obviously there is a part of that case, which is he claimed it was a hate crime, claimed that, you know, two white people said this is MAGA country, and threw a noose over his neck. So you could say that's very political. But my point on analyzing that crime wasn't the political aspects. It was the evidentiary aspects. Is there proof that these things are true? Because I'm interested in the legal system not having conclusions made based on guesses, based on opinions, based on claims. I want it to be based on evidence, regardless of what the issue is and whether we like or dislike the politics behind it. And you know, that bothers me greatly when we don't stick with evidence, regardless of what the topic is. So, but you're correct. It can be very political. So, but that's not my point. My point is evidence. I'm just bothered by the lack of evidence in so many of these cases. So, yeah. And let's see, was there one more I want to? I'm trying to decide if I want to do this one or not. This is Tamara Samsonova, which I have people. I was asked to look at this case. This is going to be the last thing I do because I keep forgetting to do it. And so I wanted to mention she is she killed a lot of people. Here, let me pull her up. She's called, I think she's called what is she called? The Granny Ripper. The Granny Ripper, which is interesting because I don't think she has any grandchildren. So you're using Granny in the sense of just she's older, right? So she is now 78. I guess she's still alive. She was known as the Granny Ripper and Baba Yaga. She's a Russian murderer and suspected serial killer. Was arrested in July of 2015. And let me show her a picture again. There she is. A rough-looking lady. She has been hospitalized 3 times in psychiatric hospitals and may be schizophrenic. All right. Now, what happened here? She went to college, did pretty well. She worked for a tourist agency, and then she got married. She married Alexei Samsonov, and they settled down in a house. And then in 2000, her husband disappeared. She appealed to the police, but searches yielded nothing. 15 years later, in April, she contacted an investigative unit and gave a statement about her husband's disappearance. Okay, but what happened meanwhile? After her husband's disappearance, she rented a room in her apartment. In 2003, during a quarrel, she killed her tenant. He was a 44-year-old resident from Norilsk. She dismembered his corpse and disposed of it on the streets of someplace on the street. Now, is she a serial killer? Is one of the questions here. Well, she's obviously extremely violent, and she's dismembering corpses, which probably is because, what I usually point out, when she was in an apartment, my guess is the apartment wasn't on the first floor. Usually the reason you just dismember corpses is you can't get them out of the building so it's easier to chop them up and put them in like suitcases and stuff or in trash bags and chuck them piece by piece. So that's the way. That's why usually if you find that, a lot of times when you find bodies like that, you do want to find out, look for somebody who might be living in an apartment as opposed to a house where you could just put them in the car and drive them away. Then a mutual friend asked a 79-year-old Valentina Ulanova, who also lived on the same street, to shelter Samsonova temporarily while her apartment was being renovated. She lived in there several months, helping with the housework. Then they deteriorated, and the woman asked her to leave. And so she didn't want to leave. So she went to a pharmacist, got some prescription drugs, and crushed the pills and put it in the salad and gave it to her. And then she died. And now she's laying on the kitchen floor. Samsonova dismembered the body with 2 knives and a saw and bagged up the pieces. She left pieces of her body scattered around as she made several trips to take all the bags out of the apartment. So the woman that she just chopped up there, she was wrapped in a bathroom curtain found near a pond, dismembered body found near a pond. I don't know how it got to the pond. I'd be curious about that one. So then they finally figured out who it was. They knocked on Ulanova's apartment, and Samsonova opened the door. She was like, hey, she's still living there. And police found traces of blood in the bathroom and the fastening from the torn off curtain, and they arrested her at that point. And they did a forensic psychiatric examination, and she was investigated in connection with 14 murders. They found a diary containing details of some of the murders, and one entry claims she said, I killed my tenant Volodya, cut him to pieces in the bathroom with a knife, and put the pieces of his body in plastic bags and threw them away in different parts of this district. So she's a lovely woman. Is she a serial killer? Or is she a situational killer who gets in a lot of situations? So a serial killer, again, is somebody who the purpose is the murder. The purpose is the thrill and the feeling of being God when you rape and murder, or when you just murder. Just you don't have to rape, but for a lot of men, it's the raping and murdering. For a lot of women, it's just playing God with killing your own children, killing patients, or whatever. But situational murders are a different thing, where that person finds themselves in a bind and gets themselves out of the bind by killing the person that is causing them a problem. The murder itself isn't the point. They aren't looking forward to, okay, I can't wait to kill again because I want everybody's attention. And I want to be, my name to be in the newspaper, and whatever. I want to be. So it's not that. It's like, you piss me off. I'm going to kill you. Well, I've already killed once. I might as well kill you too. So I don't consider her a serial killer. I consider her a busy situational murder. So that's why I want to talk about the case. Opportunity. Opportunity. I'm trying to think whether I like that terminology or not. Because there's difference between an opportunity and a situation. Okay, an opportunity would be, if I kill this person, I can rob their house. I know they got big money in the house, so I'm going to kill them and take all the stuff from their house. Another opportunity would be, I'm going to marry this person specifically to get their insurance, life insurance. I'm going to marry them, get life insurance, and then they're going to die on the honeymoon. Situational killer is someone who didn't hook up with a situation specifically to take advantage of an opportunity to kill, to get something in the killing. It's that the situation arose that they didn't like they got tired of the husband. If you take a look at Drew Peterson, I think he tried to kill the first wife, but the second wife, he killed her in the bathtub. I forget what the issue is. There was some issue about the divorce. And then the third wife, I think she knew about it, so he had to shut her up. So that's a difference. That's a difference in just situation and specifically picking an opportunity. So theoretical, an accidental murder. A lot of people claim they accidentally murdered people. Now, I didn't intend to do it, but she ran into the knife. Opportunity Knocks was a terrible movie. I never saw that. I guess I should never see it. Yeah. She fully contributed to the situations. That is true. I mean, obviously she was a piece of work. You know what I mean? And but she was an older woman. And again, people they don't see that an older woman. They don't think the older woman is dangerous because she's an older woman, and she must be safe, which always makes me laugh because there's nothing at my age that can keep me from killing somebody if I wanted to. Now, I'm probably not going to fight them with my I'm not going to beat them to death probably, unless they're small, which is why women pick on littler things. But guns work well. Knives. A lot of women kill people with knives and poison. So they use methodologies that will work for them. Now this woman used a bunch of methodologies apparently. So she was she found all kinds of ways, but she had to keep chopping people up, and I would like to know exactly whether she was always in the situation where she couldn't get the bodies out of the apartments. And that's why she had to chop them up into pieces. I would guess that's probably the reason, although maybe she liked chopping up bodies. And occasionally that can be something too. It's like, oh, I thought that was fun. So lovely. She was very industrious. Wasn't she, though? I tell you, she was very industrious. Who knew it would all become sweeter with age? Yes. Not so much. Sometimes people, interesting enough, sometimes people who get older have less to lose. And that's why there's some older killers out there who say, well, I got nothing to lose. I'm already this age. And some of them actually have illnesses, cancer or something. And they're like, what the heck? Nothing to stop me now. And the way the worst comes to worst, I'll get a place to live because I can't afford assisted living. So, to save my family money, I'll commit a crime and get thrown in some place, and at least I'll get, 3 hots and a cot, so it might be cheaper than going to a nursing home. So, but anyway, that's going to be it for today. I'm glad you were here. I have not decided on my weekend one yet. I have so many things running around in my head now and what I want to decide to do. But yes, it will. What day? Oh yeah, Sunday. Yeah, it definitely will be on Sunday. I was trying to think because it's Labor Day weekend here, and a lot of people are going to be away in the U.S. for a 3-day weekend. I am not, so I am taking care of animals, which is my specialty. And my family, my daughter, goes away to the beach without me. Anyway, so annoying. Thank you very much, Clarissa. I'm glad you're all here, Christoph and Lady Jane. Thank you for being patient for me showing up 15 minutes later than apparently I scheduled it. Go figure. So, all right. So, I'm trying to figure that out. So, everybody's saying goodbye. Bye. Bye. And see you guys, whoever is still is coming on Sunday. I'll see you on Sunday. And again, if you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. Check the playlist and check my other channel, Dear Profiler Pat. And and join Patreon if you'd like to be in the chat room. That would be just great. See you later.